Hey everyone, and welcome to the Alba Method. So today we are breaking down Chaturanga Dandasana, or four-limb staff pose, also known as low plank or mid plank. This is a transition pose. It's challenging and takes patience and practice in order to access. You typically see Chaturanga Dandasana in a power yoga class or a Vinyasa yoga class, and we typically don't utilize this shape in our day-to-day life, so it can be difficult to make that mind-body connection when we're first practicing this shape. I'm going to be taking you through some drills and exercises that you can keep coming back to in order to create the strength and range of motion to access this pose safely and more effectively. Again, this pose is difficult and it takes time and patience, so make sure you're listening to your body and taking breaks when you need to. You are going to need 2 blocks for today's class, your body and your mat, and when you're ready, I'll meet you there. Okay, so today we're going to start on our back. You can set your blocks to the side for now. And we're going to start by prepping the body. So mid plank and low plank requires total body strength. It also requires that mind-body connection. So I want you to start by just planting your feet underneath your knees. And as always, just take a moment to get connected to this space, to get connected to your body, and get connected to your breath. Just for a moment before we start to create some heat. Make sure your feet are right underneath your knees and take a moment to feel the tripod of each foot, the big toe mound, the center of each heel, the pinky edge, the arch. And just feel some grounding, some slight activation or energy through the feet. And start to bring your arms down by your side so the palms face down. And you're going to elevate your arms, so you're just going to hover those arms above the ground and start to lift your chest and look between the legs, feeling that core turn on. We want to keep the low back pressing into the mat, keep the low belly pulling in. We're just going to pulse those arms up and down for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Release that. And just reach those arms up overhead. Take a stretch. Take an inhale. And exhale, come back to center. Good. Pressing those arms right above the mat. Start to lift up through your chest and start to pulse those arms again for 8, 7, nice and slow, 6, with control, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start to pull your right knee into your chest, keeping the shape, keep your arms still. Good. Start to pull your left knee in and then extending that right heel, just hover that right heel above the mat. Good. Start to alternate those legs in and out, nice and slow. So really activating those hip flexors here. Keep your gaze up, keep your breath fluid. Here's 8, 7, try to keep the heels low to the ground, just hovering right above the ground. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Pull those knees into your chest, release your head, and just rock knees side to side. Good. From here, just release your feet and bring your arms down. You can release the hands and go ahead and walk those shoulder blades onto the back. So we really want to feel those tips of the shoulder blades come together on the back. And we're creating this shelf space through the chest. And we want to kind of create that equal and opposite, right? So sliding the shoulder blades onto the back, start to pull the chest in and find some activation now through the backs of the arms, through the back of the head, underneath the shoulder blades, and start to lift your hips up for a gentle bridge. So bringing the hip bones right in line with the knees, and continue to press through the hands, pressing through the backs of the arms, really utilizing the upper body to lift the hips. Good. Start to screw your feet into the ground. Continue to press through the back of the head to keep the neck long. We want to avoid crunching through the chin to chest and just lift the chest towards the chin. Good. Slowly release that, releasing your hips, and pause. Good. We'll do that 2 more times. So continue to press through the shoulder blades, pressing through the upper back, through the upper shoulders. Start to lift the hips, getting the glutes involved, getting the quads involved. The whole body gets involved to create this shape. Take an inhale, lift up. And slowly exhale, releasing the hips, keeping the shoulder blades right where they are. Good. Now from here, I want you to bend the arms right at the elbows so that the palms face in. So we're making these robot or T-Rex arms. And now I want you to flip your hands to the sky. So as if you were pressing your hands up towards the ceiling. Flex your wrists a lot. Just spread your fingertips wide, as if you were trying to push something off of you. And now start to press your low back into the mat. Feel the backs of your triceps get strong, and just continue to feel this activation. We're not really moving the body. We're just really pressing our body into the ground. Through the backs of the arms, through the backs of the shoulders, and then really spread the fingertips wide. Create that extension through the wrists. Good, and then just roll out your wrists. Release that as you pull your knees into your chest. Roll out those ankles. Just taking some organic movement here to release that. Check in with the body, check in with the breath, and then when you're ready, go ahead and rock yourself up to a seat or rolling over to one side and push yourself up. Good, so from here, I want you to go ahead and come onto your belly. Just set these blocks out of the way. And I want you to start by bringing the feet, looking back at your feet, bringing your feet about hip-width distance apart. We want the tops of the feet down here so that our kneecaps lift off the ground and so that we're squeezing our glutes. And that's our foundation. That's where it starts, is in that engagement through the legs. And then I want you to bring your arms out in front of you, almost even past your mat, so that you can extend your arms and really support your shoulders. So creating this shape, we want to bring the ears back over the shoulders, feel our back engage. So as we do this, we continue to press through the tops of the feet, continue to pull the belly in and press down and forward into the hands. Good. Go ahead and release that. Just release your forearms to the mat. And then do that again. Lifting those elbows off the ground, press through the tops of the feet. Press down and forward into that left hand. Start to reach your right arm up. And you're just going to look behind you, tap behind you with the pinky, and then come back to center. Good. From here, press down and forward into that right hand. Start to switch sides, taking that left hand up and over, and come back to center. Good. Press down and forward into those hands, lift the chest, and then release the forearms. Good. Start to drop your chin to your chest. Just take a breath. Notice that difference. And we'll do that one more time. So setting up your shape, press through the tops of the feet, start to lift those elbows. Start to reach that right arm up and back behind you and come back to center. Press down and forward into that right hand. Same thing, left side. Good. Coming back to center and release those forearms. Good. Good. From here, go ahead and bring those hands right underneath you. We want the thumbs towards the rib cage. So we want to bring those thumbs almost to the bottom of the rib cage, right in the middle, and spread the fingertips wide. And then here, you really want to start to pull those elbows together. And we do that by utilizing our shoulder blades. So drawing those shoulder blades together and down the back. We feel the chest immediately lift here. So we're not doing a huge movement here. We're just finding this little baby cobra where our hands are staying utilized, pressing into the ground, elbows are pointing to the sky, and we're thinking about sliding those shoulders down the back as we lift the chest. So just pause here. Good. Hugging those elbows in and then release that. Good. Now from here, you're going to come back to center, pressing through the tops of the feet. I want you to tuck your toes under now. You're going to press through the balls of the feet and bring your forehead all the way down towards the ground. Keeping your thumbs where they are, start to lift your hands. See if you can hover your hands just 1 inch above the ground with your elbows reaching to the sky. So as if you were trying to pinch something between your shoulder blades, if you were trying to pinch my finger, and then release that. Good. Do that 2 more times. Press through the balls of the feet so that the quads now get involved. Pull the belly button in. Squeeze your glutes. Start to lift your hands off the mat. Elbows reach to the sky. Squeeze those shoulder blades together. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release all of that. Go ahead and press yourself up. Bringing the tops of the feet to the mat. Coming into a child's pose here. So extend those arms. And bring your forehead to the mat. Just pause. Breathe. Notice the difference in the back body. Breathe into your back body. Try to breathe right between those shoulder blades. Sending our breath to that back space. Good. From here, go ahead and come up to your knees. And just bring your arms down by your sides to start. So we want to keep the arms as close to the mid-body as we can when we're creating that mid-plank. So the elbows want to stay hugging in. And we want to contain that energy. So we're going to try to create this L shape from the shoulder to the elbow to the wrist. And then this is a big movement through the wrists. So practicing this flexion and extension through the wrists is really going to help you utilize and help you access this shape. So just this motion of flex and extension, taking some wrist circles and just warming up the wrists, getting them ready. And then we want to keep everything hugging in. So go ahead and create that L shape again. And we want to keep those elbows as tight as we can to the mid body. And then we want to draw those biceps back. So I want to draw the shoulder blades down and then hug the elbows in so we feel this nice strong upper body, and then pulling the low ribs and the low belly in. This is essentially what we're trying to create in that mid-plank shape with the upper body, is this L shape. We want to work, and the goal is to get the triceps parallel with the mat. So go ahead and shift onto your bottom and bring your hands behind you. So this is really going to help you utilize that motion through the wrist. So bringing the fingertips pointing towards the glutes. And if you need to take your hands a little bit wider to start, that's okay. But we really want to access this in order to create this shape. So bringing your feet about hip width distance apart, spreading the fingertips wide. So now we want to straighten these arms so that the shoulder blades once again come on to the back, so my triceps get involved and I'm just pushing the ground away with the heels of my hands. Good. I'm going to walk my feet in so I feel supported, and I might turn my hands out a little bit. You have to feel this in your body. So if the hands are turned out slightly, that's okay. We want to make sure that we're not experiencing any pain or pinching, so go where your body needs to go. We're trying to create this shift in this shelf space through the elbow and the shoulder. So I want you to lift up, coming in to this reverse tabletop. Now our shoulders are internally rotated here, so we want to try to roll them back ever so slightly. And then as the shoulders roll down, we want to counter that by engaging the triceps as we bend the arms, press through the heels of the hands, point the elbows back. We're not going to come completely parallel here. We're just getting those triceps involved. And then hips come back in line with the knees as you press through the heels of the hands. Do that 2 more times, nice and slow. Just drop the hips as you bend the arms, and then lift the hips in line with the knees. Good. Again. So tricep dips, essentially, but we're utilizing the wrists and the entire body in order to access this. 1 more. Nice and slow. And then lift up through the hips, press through the heels of the hands, and then slowly release that. Good. And roll out those wrists and just check out the difference. Good. So go ahead and come back onto your knees. And from here, we're going to grab our blocks. We're going to set them at the top of the mat for now, just so that they're accessible. And then we're going to come back and we're going to stay on our knees. So from here, I just want you to make sure the hands are underneath the shoulders, and we're spreading the fingertips wide here. And again, we want to create this nice resistance, so pulling the low ribs and really pushing the ground away here. And start to take the hips back towards the heels. And you can have the toes tucked under here to give the feet a nice little foot stretch, or you can have the tops of the feet flat, whatever feels good for you. But then we're going to start to shift and take the shoulders over the wrist. So really shifting forward. So now we feel that through the wrists, through the heels of the hands. And then we're just going to nice and slow go forward and back. Now remember, spreading your fingertips nice and wide, creating a nice wide surface space is one of the keys to accessing that mid-plank. So if your fingertips are too close together, we're going to put too much strain on the rest of the arm in order to create this shape. So you want to make sure we're gripping the mat with the finger pads. Make sure you're pressing more through your index finger and your thumb. Okay, so everything hugging into the midline. Do that a couple more times. And we want to think about this hinging effect. So just hinging the shoulders slightly past those wrists. Good. So coming back to center, just pause here. And I want you to bring the top of that left hand down, continuing to spread the fingertips wide. And you can kind of move that arm forward, in and out. Just stretching out that wrist and then switch sides, taking your time. Bring the top of that hand down and just moving that eye of the elbow in and out. And then shake that out and come back to center. So again, the goal is to create that L shape. So when we think about chaturanga or mid-plank, the number one thing we don't want to do is take the elbows out, okay? This is a tricep push-up almost. So bringing those elbows back instead of out is the key. And it takes a lot of tricep strength, so that's why we're going to start building it piece by piece. So we're going to start with the blocks. You want to bring them so that they're flat and that they have a nice wide surface space. And you want to spread your fingertips on the blocks. And you, depending on how wide your shoulders are, you want to make sure that the hands are right underneath the shoulders, just like in tabletop. And then you might want to take a little bit of a wider stance with your knees. But you can start with the knees where they are as well. So again, we want to create this slight shift. So I'm going to pull the belly in and try to stay nice and long through my spine. Shoulders over my wrists now. Now from here, I'm going to stay on my knees and shift forward. And I'm just going to come halfway down. I'm going to bring those shoulders right in line with the elbows. Again, we're making that tricep parallel with the ground and then pressing right back up. Good. So again, noticing I'm not leading with my chest to come down. I'm trying to resist gravity, resist the mat, pulling my chest in, and then shifting forward so that I'm at a slight angle. And with that hinge, it allows the weight to come off the wrists, and we're utilizing our triceps and putting less pressure on the wrists. So again, this takes tricep strength. It takes repetition. But we want to move slow so we can make that mind-body connection in order to access this better, okay? So again, we don't want to fall straight towards the ground. We want to shift forward and then use those blocks, push into those blocks to come halfway down. Elbows hug onto the ribs, just like we did on our back. Shoulder blades onto the back, and then press right back up. Good. Do that a couple more times. Coming halfway down and pressing up. Coming halfway down, keeping the belly in, and pressing up. Good. Do it 2 more times. Good. And then press up, sit your hips to your heels. And roll out those wrists. You can also use weights with this. You can grip weights and press them down. But I like to use the blocks because it also gives us a little bit better of a surface space. But if you are experiencing wrist pain, you'll want to utilize weights in order to grip the weight and take pressure off the wrist. Now we're going to spin the blocks so that the narrow side is facing up. And this is where we're going to bring the hands behind the blocks. And I'm going to make sure that almost my entire arm can rest on these blocks. Okay, so the goal here is to start to resist the block so that we can create that shelf, okay? So again, we want to create this L shape with the arms to create that low plank. So we're basically resisting so that we can keep the upper body. Remember, the legs are going to be involved too, but we're starting with the upper body and then we're going to get back to the legs. So you have to set this up to where it works for you. But again, the hands are going to come pretty much right behind these blocks, almost touching. And I'm going to shift forward. And again, you're going to make the little adjustments so that they work for you. So I'm going to come down so that my biceps are able to rest on the blocks. My shoulder head is resting on the block. Elbows pull in, and I'm really giving my weight to the blocks here. And then I'm going to look right down, and then I'm going to start to push through those hands and press up. Good. So it's a little bit more challenging to press yourself up than it is to come down. So try that again. So nice and slow, come down so that you're able to really rest the shoulder head on the block. So see, my shoulders are a little bit past my elbows here, so I'm going to start to resist the block, pull my elbows back, press through the heels of the hands, and press up. Good. So we'll do that a couple more times. So shift forward, set it up, allow yourself to come onto the blocks, and then elbows in towards the ribs, pull the belly in, and then press up. Good. We're going to do that one more time. So really utilizing those hands, utilizing those blocks. Come halfway down, keeping everything hugging into that midline, pulling the belly in, and then press up and back. And take a little break, roll out those wrists. So again, Repetition, consistency, conditioning, and then eventually this starts to become more accessible. It's always going to take effort though. This isn't an easy pose to create. It's a transition pose, like I said, and we don't utilize it that often. So it takes a lot of strength. It takes a mind-body connection. So again, take your time, takes practice, and it takes building up to. So next part for that, and you can keep coming back to staying on the knees. That's just fine. But the next puzzle piece is going to bringing those hands right behind the blocks once again. And here we're going to come into a plank. So setting it up and coming into this plank position. So in my plank, my feet are hip width distance apart, quads are super engaged, belly's engaged, glutes are engaged, pushing the earth away with the heels of my hands. I'm going to take those shoulders just ever so slightly past the wrist, create that hinge, and then bringing my shoulder heads onto the block and then pressing up, pulling the belly in. Okay, so again, this is the next puzzle piece. You can always keep the knees down and continue to practice up until we start to build that strength. It's tough. We're getting into the core, we're getting into those obliques. So again, coming into plank, legs engaged, belly engaged. You're going to come halfway down. Let the shoulders rest on the blocks and then press up. Good. So that's the next puzzle piece. Again, that's just an intro. We don't necessarily need to be there yet, but that's going to be the next puzzle piece. And you'll want to try that 3 or 4 times. But for now, staying on the knees, building that strength, you're getting that same action. Good. So from here, I want you to move the blocks a little bit closer to the top of your space. Bring the hands right behind the blocks and come into a downward facing dog. So just take a moment to stretch this out. And we're just going to move through this a few times. So I want you to inhale and just shift forward to a plank position. And then we're going to create that same action. So coming halfway down, this time try not to let the shoulders rest on the blocks. And then come through to your upward facing dog and press through the tops of the feet. Pause here, squeezing the glutes, pulling the belly in. And again, shoulder blades slide onto the back as you push through the heels of the hands. Ears draw back over the shoulders. And then pulling the belly in, coming back to downward facing dog. Good. Again, shift forward to plank. Here you can drop down to your knees or stay in plank. Come halfway down. Shoulders don't touch the blocks this time. They're just there as a guide. Coming through upward facing dog and downward facing dog. Good. Again, shifting forward to plank. Come halfway down. Lifting up for upward facing dog and pulling back. Downward facing dog. You have 2 more. Inhale, shift forward. On your knees or in plank. Halfway down. Lifting up and pulling back. Good. 1 more. Come halfway down, lifting up and pulling back. So good. Take a breath. And just go ahead and drop down to your knees and shift your blocks off the mat, rolling out your wrists and bring yourself back onto your seat with the legs extended. Take a couple breaths and just let that go. Bring your hands to the shins. Just find a gentle forward fold here. So remember, these things take time. They take practice. They take conditioning. And soon, one day, they just kind of click and everything kind of comes together. And it's always going to take effort. It's always going to take some work. But the more we practice safely, the more we can utilize those tools in order to create this and access this shape. So remember, this shape takes time and practice. Keep coming back to this video in order to practice these drills, and then start to see your progress as you continue to build that strength. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you for the next one. Bye.